public service announcement. You have a wardrobe of black clothes? Don't get a white cat. Welcome to Lilybug's Library, everyone. My name's Linda, and welcome back if you've been here before. And today we're going to do our Friday reads. So I've got 3 books that I read this week. Kind of thought it was more, but anyway, 3 was all I could find. So they were good anyway. The first one was A Long Way Home by Lynn Austin. So this one just kind of popped up on my Hoopla, and I thought, okay, that sounds good. I always like to have an audiobook going just because I find it really helps when I'm doing things. And maybe we're all just addicted to having something playing all the time. I don't know, but I enjoyed it. So this one is about this this woman who it kind of goes between 2 timelines. So it's this woman, Peggy, who initially she and her family and some other families who are all Jewish try to leave Germany. And they're told that they can. And this, of course, is during World War II. So they try to leave. They get on this ship. They get all the way to Cuba. And Cuba won't accept them. And so some people are taken off, but not all of them. And so then the ship tries for America, and America won't accept them. And eventually they end up back in Europe, and they end up in Belgium, I believe. So a little too close to the war. But anyway, that's what happens. And on the way, she starts to really fall in love with this other man. And they're fairly young at that time, like I'd say late teens. And she falls in love with this man named Sam, and they really have connected and kind of want to keep in touch. But of course, with war, that makes it difficult. So there's a whole timeline that takes place there. But the other timeline is in the present when Peggy's friend Jimmy comes home from the war. And he's been her neighbor for years. And during that time, like, he's always been the one with the advice, and he, would talk to her about God and, really helped her. I'd say he was a few years older than her by the sounds of it, because he really seemed to kind of be her mentor almost. So anyway, when he comes back, he's not himself. He tries to commit suicide. He's almost catatonic. And the whole story is about her trying to find out what happened to him in the war and why he's like this and what she can do to help him. So it was really good. I would definitely give it 5 out of 5. It apparently is the author's debut novel. She's been writing for years, but nothing published, and this is the first one she's had published. And I thought it was excellent. The dual timeline worked really well. Characters were really well thought out. She did a great job of dealing with those difficult issues like PTSD, and but in a way that they would have dealt with them back in the 1940s and 50s. And it was really good, and a lot of interesting characters. So I really enjoyed it, and definitely would recommend that one. Okay, this is Editing Linda coming to you. So as I'm listening to that, I realized I totally messed that up. It's not Peggy who is in the first timeline. It's a different woman. So that's one timeline that takes place, and then the other timeline is back in America with Jimmy and Peggy, and at some point the 2 timelines do intersect. So so just ignore that first part. But it was really good, and all the rest stands. I just had the women mixed up. Okay, thanks. So that was the first one. And I also like the fact that they didn't try to make a romance out of her and her neighbor Jimmy, because I find some books, like, as soon as a woman starts helping a man, all of a sudden it becomes romantic, and it's like it's not always that way. It's sometimes it's just a friendship. So anyway, that was good. So the next one was a devotional that Wonderful Husband and I did over the Easter Lenten season. It was called the Easter Code. So this one was a 40-day journey to kind of get you ready for Easter, from Lent to Easter. So it had like a code word that they talked about a bit. It had like a scripture verse. It had a prayer. It had all the things you would want, but I gotta confess, it did leave me a little flat. It was not, I guess it was not as in-depth as I wanted, and I didn't really get the whole code word thing. So it was not, I almost felt like it was a book that should have went with a devotional. But anyway, it was okay. I'd probably give it 3 out of 5. And then the last book that I read for this week, it was amazing. I thought I would definitely give it 5 out of 5. It was The Beekeeper of New York, and this one was it was unlike anything I'd ever read, I guess, and it was about this family from Yemen. And it started out, it was Yusra, her brother Samir, and their parents. And it starts out in Yemen in a place called, and I apologize if I say this badly, Al Hadada. And they're living there, and her brother Samir has autism. So he ends up getting into problems in the marketplace and getting hurt. And it really affects his sister, Yusra, who just can't cope with that level of violence. And it really makes her, it changes the way she thinks, it changes her faith, it changes everything. So eventually they, after that incident, her family moves them to America, to New York. And eventually her parents pass away, and it's just her and her brother Samir, and they're living together in New York. And things, seem to be going okay, but then she discovers she has cancer, and that's not really a spoiler. It's very early in the book. And so she's dealing with all of that, and her brother starts making things for her out of honey. Honey cakes and honey everything, you name it, it has honey in it. And he's very good at cooking and baking, and he keeps telling her the honey will cure her. And of course she doesn't believe in anything she can't see, and as far as she's concerned, doctors and science will cure her. So it's the struggle between faith and not science really, because science and faith can go hand in hand. So it's more the study. It's more between her belief and her unbelief, like her struggling to figure out what she believes. And then she realizes later on that she really doesn't even know her brother. She still sees him as a child in need of protection, and he's much more than that. And so as the story goes on, she starts to learn that all these things that she thinks are true and that she's, held her belief in, turns out a lot of them turn upside down on her, and she realizes she doesn't know the things that she thinks she knows. And I want to tell you so much more about it because it was so good, but I don't want to give any spoilers. So the best I could say is, the characters were well developed, really good representation of a lot of things, autism being one of them. And then the ending was a shocker, and yet a really good ending, I thought. So the whole thing was excellent. If I could give it 6 out of 5, I would. So really recommend that one. It was, made my week. I couldn't devour that one fast enough. So that's what I read this week. So I've also got too many on the go. I promised myself at the beginning of the year I was just going to read one book at a time. I'm not that person. I'm trying to be that person, but I'm not. So I've got three or four. Wonderful husband and I are still reading Fahrenheit 451, which it's like reading it for the first time because I was so young when I read it before that I really remembered nothing about it other than they were burning books. So I'm getting a much better grasp of it and a much better education in it than I had before. And realizing that those things they worried about in the 50s, they still worry about or need to. Having my second cup of coffee this morning. Usually I don't have a second one until afternoon, but it was the day for it. So reading that, reading or listening to Murder at the Crown and Anchor, which is the next in the Cleopatra Fox mysteries. My light just went off, which makes me think it's almost dead. So I'll have to get that charged. And what else are we reading? Oh, I'm reading the House at the River's Edge, I think. I did write it down here. Bear with me for a second while I take a peek. Yeah, The House at River's Edge by Rachel Burton, and that one's an arc. So reading that, it's been good so far. Sort of in the era of Downton Abbey, coming up on the First World War. So I'm interested to see where it goes. I'm just kind of getting into it. And then started reading, and again, it was sometimes things come up in my library apps that you've put on hold, and then it comes along and it's like, oh, I better read this. So anyway, this one is 100 Ways to Simplify Your Life by Joyce Myers. So I've been reading that as well. A pretty quick read, that one. It's a lot to it because there's 100, but mostly it's you can go through each one pretty fast. And most of them just are kind of common sense, but not always things that we necessarily are doing, even though it's common sense. So that's what I'm reading now. Now I probably will get next to nothing read this weekend. Wonderful mother-in-law is coming up for a visit. Looking forward to seeing her and spending time with her. So that'll be the weekend. And I hear that we're going to get a sunny day on Saturday with 18-degree temperatures, 18 Celsius. I'll believe it when I see it because we haven't had anything nearly that warm yet. So we'll see how that goes. Otherwise, that's about all that's going on. So I hope everybody has a nice weekend. I'll be back next week with my TBR for May. It is long because I'm doing two readathons. I'm doing Mystery and Mayhem and the Southern, I know I'm going to get this wrong, Southern Charm readathon, I think is the other one. I think that's what it's called. Anyway, looking forward to both of them, and picked books for each of the prompts in both of them. So, like I said, it's a little longer this month or next month. So we'll see how that goes. I did try to double up where I could so that I wasn't reading quite so many, but still a lot. All right, so that's about it. So I hope you have a great weekend, and I hope it's sunny and warm wherever you are. All right, talk to you soon, friends. Bye-bye.